Usually when we look at how a society is built, there's this expectation of precision, like a blueprint, right?
Right, yeah, like a modern nation.
Exactly. You see the borders, the capital city, the laws, and you just point and say, there it is. That's the structure.
Well, we like our political systems to be binary, you know? We're either inside the border or you're outside. You're a citizen or you're not.
But then you step into the world of the ancient Middle East, and suddenly that clean blueprint gets completely torn up
Oh, completely. It is murky. It's chaotic.
and endlessly fascinating. Which brings us to today's deep dive. Now, to you, the listener, you handed us a very specific, honestly, pretty intense mission for this one.
Yeah, you really did.
You asked us to dive into Daniel E. Fleming's incredibly dense academic text, Democracy's Ancient Ancestors, Mary and Early Collective. And your rules for us were strict.
Guys.
You said extract 100% of the facts, skip absolutely nothing, and read every single English quotation verbatim.
It is a massive undertaking. We're essentially building an audio encyclopedia for you here.
Right, focusing on the ancient Mari kingdom during the reigns of kings like Zimri-Lim, Samsi-Addu, and Yazma-Addu.
But, we're not just going to drone on and read a textbook. We're going to explain the why and the how of it all.
Exactly. The central tension driving this whole society is this incredibly complex tribal structure of two main confederacies.
The Semelites and the Yamanites.
Right. It's this constant tug of war between the settled life of the town and the nomadic life of the steppe. So let's start with the foundational building block of Mari's local governance.
The Shigagum.
Okay, let's unpack this. If we're looking at how these ancient towns were actually managed on a daily basis, is a shugagum basically, like a hybrid of a mayor and a local sheriff.
That's a perfect way to visualize it, yeah. The Shugagum is a West Semitic term for a primary local leader of towns.
Inside and outside the Mari kingdom, right?
Exactly. That's a key point observed by the scholar Nakata. And this wasn't a free gig. To hold this office, they paid a Shugagudum fee to the Mari king.
Often literally in sheep, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But it gets complicated depending on geography, doesn't it?
Always does. In the core, Puratum district.
Which translates to the banks of the Euphrates districts, right? So that's Mari, Turka, and Sagaratam.
Yep. In those core districts, plural Shugagu-assisted leaders called Laputu.
Let's translate some jargon for you here. Laputu comes from the Sumerian word Nu Banda 3, which means deputies.
And the text notes that this title is only attested in these core, carefully ordered districts, because they were closely attuned to Southern institutional traditions.
It's sort of like a chaotic frontier town suddenly getting strict corporate middle management from the big city down south.
That's exactly it. We even see this in a military letter from Yazma-Addu to Ishmadagan.
Right, where he associates Laputu with section chiefs, known as Galku5.
And power flowed from the top. Kings appointed these towns shugagums using the specific Akkadian verb shakanum, meaning to appoint.
Now, Nakata claims that clan names, or gayum, that are written with the ki determinative.
Which is a written symbol indicating a place.
Right. Nakata claims those are geographic areas, not towns. But we definitely know kings assigned these leaders.
Yeah, Samsi-Addu and Yazma-Addu assigned them at places like Yel and Tisra.
While Zimri-Lim assigned them at Dur-Yadun-Lim, Hishamta, and Tabatum. But don't think these towns just rolled over.
Oh no, they had their own political will.
Yeah, listen to this literal eviction notice from a guy in Dur-Yadun-Lim. Here's our first verbatim quote for you. I can no longer serve as shugagum of Dur-Yadun-Lim. I have been driven out. Let them appoint whoever they want.
I mean, that is a very ancient hostile takeover right there.
Totally. But royal power extended far. In vassal lands like Amaz up in the northern kingdom of Onderig, kings also appointed leaders.
Meanwhile, over in the Habur drainage, titles were heavily negotiated. For instance, Ibaladu, the king of Ashlaka, intentionally insulted the ruler of Hura.
Who is subject to Ashnakam, right?
Right. He insulted him by calling him only a shugagum.
The power dynamics are just intense. Yoram-Lim of Yamhad actually instructed Dadi-Hadun of Rabu on how to fall in line. Quote, Dadi-Hadun must call Zimri-Lim father and lord, and Yoram-Lim orders that each shugagum take an oath in the temple of the storm god Adu to fight loyally for Zimri-Lim.
There were exceptions to this system, though. Tutul and Imar had no shugagum.
Tukul had a Hazanam instead, yeah.
Exactly. Urgish had a weak king. Turka, Sagaratam, and Katunan had high-level governors called Shipatum.
And document Aram the 7th, 311 mentions 3 Shugagu from Sagaratam paying fees. which likely meant they were paying on behalf of distinct towns or tribes, not acting as joint leaders.
Right, and this multiple leader concept is fascinating. In a letter to Ibalel, 3 men from Luhaim wrote to him, quote, "Our Father and our Lord."
Which brings us to the elders. When ruled by outsiders, towns relied on the collective voice of these elders.
But sovereign kings, they preferred dealing with individual shugagu and deputies to maintain tight control.
So we have a sequence of verbatim quotes here, showing exactly how this dance between elders and shugagu played out. Yaram Lim outlines the chain of command, quote, "As long as you stay there, 2 of their kings must come to me from their group. Then, if their kings do not come, their shugagum should take the lead, and you must return with your explanation."
And then here is Sumuhadu giving mobilization orders, quote, "My Lord's tablet reached me en route. The present message is in response to my Lord's tablet. Let the Shugagu and the elders of the Mutabal listen."
He goes on, "Toranathki and the residents of Shubat Enlil, keep writing constantly to your Lord to open the city of Shubat Enlil. Let them listen to this message. Conduct the Shugagu and the elders to my Lord at Dur Yadun Lim. My Lord can put them at ease and make preparations for a campaign."
A request from Luhaim to Ibalel shows them asking for this leadership presence. "Bring yourself to Dare. The elders and the Shugagu must come to us."
Note that Dare was a western town near the Bali River, an old Semilite base.
And Askludum writes, regarding the assembly of the Hana, quote, "The Shugagu and the elders, Maurea of the Hana, arrived. I inquired about plans for assembling the Hana. The Hana will assemble in 1 month at best."
The text notes that the word Marum here means earlier or older, and man, people desperately wanted these leadership roles.
Oh, they were bribing each other. Yamsi Hadnu tried to bribe Banam, quote, "When Banam served as Merham, Yamsi Hadnu presented him 3 1/3 minas of silver and 300 sheep, saying, 'Appoint me a shugagum.' Banam answered as follows, 'Wait until my lord arrives.'"
300 sheep. Finally, Yataram reporting on the Yael Shugagum, quote, "Now 5 men from the heads of the Yaelites and the Hybrim have come to me."
And that mention of the Merham and the Hybrim transitions us perfectly from the muddy streets of the towns to the vast open steppe.
Because towns are only half the story.
Right, we have to understand how these kings controlled the mobile pastoralists. Enter the Merham.
The chief of pasture, and the tent-dwelling nomads known as the Hana. But wait, if the Merham controls the pasture and the tent dwellers move around constantly, don't they constantly clash with the district town governors?
The Shapadum, absolutely. Think of it like a massive jurisdictional nightmare between the FBI and the local police.
Right. The local governor, the Shapadum, controls the town limits.
But the chief of pasture, the Merham, reports directly to the king's inner circle. They operated completely outside the district governor system.
They controlled the flocks, called the Noyum, and the Semilite nomads.
Scholar Jean-Marie Durand actually theorized that the Merham led the transhumance, or moving flocks, called Hybrim,
while the Shugagums led the sedentary town populations, called Washabutum.
Exactly. But Fleming actually disagrees with that clean split. He notes Hybrim isn't universal, and Washabutum just confuses town identities.
Basically, it was incredibly messy. Zimri Lim had 2 main Semilite Merhums, Ibalel and Ibalpiel. Semsi Adu also had 2, Banam and Yaramadu.
And the Semilite Confederacy was divided into Gayum, which are tribes like Yabasu and Ashargium.
But the fascinating part is that the Gayum had no political leadership of their own.
None at all, which meant the Merham had to meticulously manage military assignments to avoid angering them.
Listen to Ibalpiel's stress out about trimming section chiefs. Quote, "Badi Adu had assigned 12 men as section chiefs. I questioned him as follows. The number of the army is 1,000, and for an army of 1,000 there should be 10 section chiefs, Rabbi Pirsim. At present, you have assigned section chiefs as if for an army of 1,200, and you have assigned 24 lieutenants, Upudim, as if for an army of 1,400.
He continues, "If they investigate, what indeed will be the result?" I thought about it further, saying, if I trim away 2 men from among the section chiefs whom he appointed, I will turn their opinion against me. I was afraid of this, so I appointed Sulum over the Hanayabasa and Bihirim over the Ashuragium.
The politics were high stakes. Bunu Eshtar, king of Kurda, even begged to return to his father's throne by asking for pressure on the Merham and dignitaries.
Omens dictated their movements too. Quote, "Right now, my lord should take counsel with his servants, so that according to his deliberations he can have omens taken, and so that in view of good omens, if free to go, my lord might come to me. If not, my lord should write to the Merham, so that the Merham can take the lead of 1 or 2,000 Hana and reach us here."
Resources were just a constant flashpoint. Quarni shepherds complained about pasture splits, and the shepherds arrived saying, "With the wells that we ourselves control, we can take only a third of the pasture, and the Merhum will control 2/3 for the Hana."
Which meant town officials had to handle the Merhum with kid gloves.
Right. Look at Itur Azdu's delicate handling of Ibal El over basic supplies. He writes, "I was not overbearing toward Ibal El, saying I cannot afford to be too overbearing, so that he acquires a grudge against me and never sends barley and salt into Nahur. Because of this, I held back."
He adds, "Now my lord should give strict orders to Ibal-el, so he will send in barley and salt to Ashlaka and Nahor. There is no barley and salt."
And when disputes happened, they went to the Hana assembly, or Purim. Quote, "In my entourage, I heard the following information. Ibal Adu the Achlakaite and Haman the Shugagum of Der took responsibility for leading Shaddam Labua the Ashnakamite and brought him to Ibal El the Merhum for the assembly of the Hana at Siharata."
Sometimes the jurisdictional mess was just over petty crime. A guy steals sheep at Kurta, and the local authority can't even touch the suspects.
Yeah, this quote is wild. Then Ibasir went and seized 6 sheep from one fold, 2 sheep from a second fold, and a male goat from a third fold. At this moment, Ibal Piel the Merhum is in the company of my lord. He should examine the men who have charge of the sheepfolds, and the men who have charge of the sheepfolds can determine who is the one that had these sheep taken away. These men do not operate under my authority.
It's incredible. So a local guy steals sheep, but because they belong to the nomads, the local governor's hands are tied.
The state basically had to bribe these nomadic leaders with town governorships to keep the peace. But the nomads hated losing their chiefs to the city.
Look at Banham's status. Quote, "And if the Hana press you to appoint another Merhum, saying, 'Now that Banham, our Merhum, lives in the Apparatum, we should appoint another Merhum,' you answer them this way. Previously, he lived in the steppe, and he maintained the status of the Similites, the Numha, and the Yamatbal."
Then he left for the Appuratum, where he forced open the fortified towns and so has secured your status in the Appuratum. Now, because I myself have come here, I have left this man in the Appuratum in order to hold the fortified towns. Now, as soon as I reach Mary, I will send you back your Merhum. Answer them this way."
A quick fact on that, Banham actually died right after Zimriland took the throne.
Wow, okay. And not everyone trusted these guys. Shab Labua bluntly stated, quote, "I do not trust the Merhum at all."
But they were essential, even for the Yemenites. Quote, "Dadi Hadnu came to me, and he has charged his Merhum with this expedition. I took omens, I touched the forehead of the Merhum, and my omens were auspicious."
They definitely had to be managed, though. Regarding the Tutul Merhums, quote, "The Merhums are at Tutul in the company of my lord. My lord should give them strict orders that they not be negligent about their military patrols. Their sheep are scattered, they are grazing from upstream of Halibut as far as Sermon, and they are in fact being negligent."
Sometimes a single guy held both town and steppe offices, like Habdumadegan. Quote, "You wrote to me about appointing Habdumadegan, son of Ayala Sumu, to serve as Merhum. They should proceed just as you wrote, to appoint Habdumadegan to serve as Merhum. What does his governorship amount to?"
It is not as if he already had charge of a vast land. He should have charge of Tutul, as well as serving as Merhum. Then, just as his counterparts have charge of vast land, he also should have charge of Tutul.
So these Hana nomads were not just wanderers, they were a massive military and political body.
Right. The Treaty of Ibolpiel II of Eshnuna listed them right alongside Mari, Suhum, the king or general, Amorites, and Akkadians.
Atumram even requested 100 Hana and 100 servants of Appuratum.
Okay, to you listening, you asked for every fact and every English quote verbatim. To capture the daily reality of the Hana, we have a massive rapid-fire series of dispatches here. We're going to trade these back and forth to get through them all. Ready?
Let's do it. Quote, "According to the command that my lord gave me, I reached Tabkab, and Akinamar heard about it, and 500 Hana forced their way out as his vanguard.
Go chase down Kashadim, the Hana, and engage in talks, Risum, so that the Hana may assemble, and at the raising of the torch, all the Hana may come as one man to my assistance."
Before the arrival of the Hana in fortified camps, I had deliberated and sent Ibalel the Hana to the Hana and Hali Hadun.
A contingent of 200 Hana from the area of Katunan assembled, and with Yotar Lim in their lead, went to wage war on the steppe people of the Ammonites. I spoke to them as follows.
I have been waiting for the Hana for 5 days, at the arranged time, and at this rate the army will never be assembled. Some Hana have in fact arrived from the backcountry, and they are living inside the villages.
And sometimes their presence in the towns led to absolute chaos. Listen to this one. Yasim Adu the Hana took bread and beer by force, and mortally wounded one of the palace slaves. I said to him, "Why did you kill the palace slave?" And this man answered me as follows. "The king is your master. If Samotar cannot interrogate me, do you think you can interrogate me?"
Then he started waving his bronze weapon in my face in the presence of Riffiadu and the servants of my lord. Now, I have put this man in prison. My lord should know this.
Wait, pause. So this nomad literally murdered a government official's slave, waved a weapon in his face, and basically said, "You don't have the jurisdiction to arrest me."
Yeah, it perfectly illustrates how fractured this authority was. But despite the chaos, the state desperately tracked them.
Right. Back to the rapid-fire quotes. You wrote to the king Samsi Adu about the Hana, who have made their home in the district of Upper Idamaris. Now then, I have drawn up a tablet naming every Hana resident in the district of Nahur, Talhayum, Kirdahat, and Ashnakam, so belonging to the district for which I have taken the census, and I have sent it to my lord.
Regarding the Hana who have crossed to the opposite bank of the river, about whom my lord wrote to me as follows. The Hana who crossed the river Similite or Yamanite, which is their division, Gayim, send me a complete report about them.
And since last year, since the Akkadians came up to attack, the Similite Hana have been grazing their flocks in the midst of the land of the Yamatbal. No offense or breach of conduct has ever arisen.
The lance of the Yamatbal and the lance of the Similite Hana have met. They are joined together, and no barrier can come up before the two of you.
We should establish good relations between us. The Yamatbal and the Similites have shared brotherhood and branches of the Hana people since days gone by.
A troop of 1,000 among our Similite Hana.
The bearers of good news who reached me from the company of the Hana spent the night in my company.
Or from Yataram. The Hana are well, the armies of my lord are well, the armies are well, the Similites are well.
All right, deep breath. We made it through that batch. But don't mistake them for just passing wanderers. They fiercely claimed ownership of towns.
Yeah, listen to these 3 rapid quotes from Shubram of Susa. This town is indeed my town, and from of old it was duly assigned to the inheritance of the Yabasu. The Apumite did not assign it as a gift.
This town indeed belongs to Shubram, and from of old it was duly assigned to the inheritance of the Hana.
These men are Hanians, sons of Hana, not sons, i.e. inhabitants of his land.
Which transitions us perfectly to the other major player in the steppe. It wasn't just Similite territory.
Right, it was causally linked to their great rivals, the Yamanites, or Binu Yamina.
Now, a quick important note to you listening. The historical sources we are about to read get into some politically charged and frankly brutal ancient warfare tactics.
Specifically involving resistors and mutilation.
Yeah, we want to be very clear. We are absolutely not taking sides or endorsing any of this. We are just impartially reporting the historical texts to extract the facts you asked for. So how did the Yamanite structure differ?
Structurally, the Yamanites had limam, or tribes, instead of the Similite Gayum.
And there were 5 main tribes, right? The Yaruru, Yaruhu, Amnanu, Rabu, and Uprapu.
Exactly. And unlike the Similites, who were loosely affiliated, the Yamanites were heavily tied to towns, or alum, like Mishlan and Samanum.
We see that intense town loyalty in the text. Regarding Mishlan, quote, Mishlan is well, your brother Yagi Adu is well, we, your servants, are well. No one is neglecting the patrol of the rampart and the gates.
But Mishlan was also the site of brutal conflict. Here's the quote regarding the state-sponsored mutilation you mentioned earlier.
Right. Quote, ever since my lord captured the town of Mishlan, that is entirely enough for me. Another thing. Previously, I wrote to my lord as follows. Let them escort their 2 surviving Yamanite Hana to the border, and then at the border, mutilate them. Let the survivors go to the Ammonites in order to proclaim that my lord has captured the town of Mishlan by force.
Control was maintained through fear. Kibri Dagan threatened the Ammonites over desertion. Quote, when I was staying at Mari in the company of my lord, I heard about this matter in my entourage, so I assembled the Shugagu of the towns of the Ammonites and warned them as follows. Whoever you are, the one who has even 1 man leave your town for the uplands, and you fail both to arrest him and to conduct him to me, you shall die, you shall not live.
And the state demanded heavy work quotas from them. Quote, I gathered the district work crew and the residents of Turka for the maintenance of the Mari Canal. From the crew of the Ammonite towns, half did not show up. A town that owed a crew of 50 as its quota provided me a work crew of 25, and a town that owed a crew of 30 as its quota provided me a work crew of 15.
They owed financial dues, too. Quote, at present, the Shugagu and the deputies of the Ammonite towns, along with their peers at Zurban, Hishamta, Himaran, and Hana, have not delivered the silver of their quota to buy wool.
Because they were so tied to these towns, the census was a huge, controversial deal.
Quote, regarding the news of the deliberations that our Lord undertook at Turka, our Lord has been considering the return of the Yamanite Shugagu to their towns. We learned of this idea from the entourage.
And another simply pleads, quote, go to Zimrilim and ask for our towns.
Samzi Adu actually ordered Yazma Adu not to census the Yamanites, specifically so they wouldn't anger their kin, the Rabu.
He commanded, quote, the king is going on campaign. Let the whole count be absolutely complete, down to the youngest boy. Any Shugagum whose drafted troop is not complete and who leaves one man behind, he has taken the loyalty oath.
But tribal affiliations weren't set in stone, you know. They could shift. The Dabish letter shows the town of Dabish submitting to Zimri-Lim, affiliating with the Similite Nihadu Gayum.
The quote reads, by extraction we are among the Yaruru, but never as Yaradim. Also in the backcountry we have neither Hybrim nor Kadum. We are native to the Yaruru. Let us now come into the midst of the Similites as part of the Nihadu tribe, so that we may slay the treaty donkey.
Let's explain Yagaradim quickly. It basically means going down, often acting as a mercenary.
But that mention of having neither Hybrim nor Kadum is the key to understanding the Yamanites.
Right. Hybrim comes from the verb habarum, meaning to leave one's house. It represents the nomadic steppe component of the Yamanite town.
And Kadum is likely the plural leadership or guardians of that Hybrim. So think of the Yamanites as having a dual citizenship model.
Exactly. A Yamanite town wasn't just the mud brick buildings. It legally included the Hybrim, their nomadic brothers, out in the steppe.
You see this cooperation during wartime. Quote, also, the harvest has just arrived. My lord must not fail to write to his brothers, so that both their contingent of the towns and the backcountry Hybrim can be assembled. Then, reinforcements can come to us as one man on the very day we hear the word of his attack.
And document 8.2796 just simply mentions the Hybrim of the steppe.
They were one economic and political unit formally recognized in law.
Yeah, legal document ARM 811 shows the House of Awin, part of the Rabu tribe. 150 iku of land, an iku being an ancient land measurement, was bought for 10 minas of silver.
5 of the sellers were inhabitants of Apan, while the 8 buyers were the Hybrim of the backcountry.
That economic tie is exactly why kings couldn't just tax the town without dealing with the nomads.
When Sumuhadu planned attacks, he factored in both, quote, regarding the plan to attack the countryside about which my lord wrote to the Similite Hana, the Hana must first arrive so that this plan may. The Similite Hana will certainly be assembled there near Mari, and the Yamanite Hana should assemble here near Sagaratam. Then the Yamanite regular army from the banks of the Euphrates, as many as I can get ready to go, I will cause to obey my lord.
But the state was always paranoid about the Saru, the unsworn resistors moving between these zones.
Quote, another thing. In the past, before my lord would go on campaign, individual Yamanites who were not sworn to loyalty were going to and from their towns from the higher country. At present, after my lord went off on campaign, he gave us a strict order that this cease. I have made this a crime, and none of those unsworn may go as before to his town from the higher country.
And here is our final quote, detailing the Kedudum rite, which Durand initially translated as a coronation before shifting to vassal protection.
Quote, my father wrote to me about the Kedudum rite. My father knows that the oil was a problem. Now, Karni Lim has anointed me with oil, but no subordinate Suharam is at hand to serve me.
Your God must speak so that I can acquire a servant who is the servant of my Lord. Now, my father must make a ruling on these matters. I will never set myself up to compete with my father's power.
As for me, I am at the ready, either as your servant or as a Shugagum. I will never let go of the corner of my father's garment. I am a loyal son of this land.
Wow. And with that, we have hit 100% of the facts and every single quotation from your mission.
We did it. It is just a massive, tangled web of Shugagums, Murhums, Yamanites, and Similites.
It really is. But, this isn't just dry history. This is the literal blueprint of how human beings organize themselves.
Right. It's how ancient people navigated that tension between wanting to stay put in a town and wanting the freedom of the steppe.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, there is one final, fascinating historical footnote to leave you with.
Lay it on us.
After King Hammurabi of Babylon eventually conquered the Mari kingdom, he didn't try to erase this tribal identity. He didn't pave over the blueprint.
Interesting.
Instead, inspired by these very systems, Hammurabi began calling himself king of the Amorite land.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this wasn't a geographical title. It was Hammurabi acknowledging that the living tribal commitments and the language of the Semelites and Yamanites were the true heartbeat of the region.
That is incredible, which raises an amazing question for you to mull over. How do ancient tribal identities still shape the titles and the power structures of modern leaders today? The next time you look at the political blueprint of a society, ask yourself, what happens when that blueprint gets murky?